Now I want to talk a little bit about some city-owned property downtown. We've got a lot of things going on in downtown Stillwater. The last 7 years, we've had a tremendous amount of reinvestment on Main Street, other parts of our business improvement district. And I think all of that's an outgrowth of a couple of things. Talking about master planning, about 9 years ago, we developed the core commercial district master plan, development master plan. It was done with an organization that goes by PUMA, is their acronym, and so it's become called the PUMA plan, but it dealt with both the Strip, Campus Corner, and the downtown district. And one of the recommendations was to develop a business improvement district, which we did, and we've had multiple millions of dollars of investor money poured into our downtown, creating new restaurants, new dining establishments, new shops, refurbished buildings for downtown residential, and I think it's continuing to grow at even a more rapid pace. Some other things that are happening in the bid district don't look nearly as glamorous. We've got some property that was occupied by some former buildings. It's kind of fallen into disuse, and to talk about that a little bit, I'll bring up the video. This is an aerial view. I wanted to remind everybody what area that I'm going to be talking about. To try to put this into perspective, this block that you're looking at with two gray areas on it, those two gray areas are former building sites. That's the block surrounded by 8th Street, 9th Street, Duncan Street, and Husband. This picture is taken from the southeast. The street to the upper right is 8th Street. The street to the left is 9th, and the diagonal street at the top is Duncan. That block is relatively vacant. We do have parking spaces on the northeast quarter of the block. The gray area in the northwest corner is what was formerly occupied by a one-time lumber yard, one-time plumbing store. The last business that was there was the Wynn Nelson Plumbing. We often referred to it as the Wynn Nelson Building. The building became really in bad disrepair. The cost of refurbishing far exceeded its value, and we removed the building. The city owned the entirety of the block except the southwest corner, the other gray area, that's gravel at this point. There was a Quonset building there owned by Payne County. It was used as a holding detention facility by the Sheriff's Department, or a jail facility. With the construction of the new county jail, that was no longer used. And we worked with the county, and Payne County deeded that property to the city. Again, as a part of the downtown redevelopment for economic development purposes, we own that entire block. We also own the block immediately west of that, which is the community center, which we're bringing into the center of the picture. That building, most of you know, was formerly a junior high school. The city acquired that several years ago, and the purpose was to be a community center and a meeting facility for meetings in Stillwater. We have refurbished over the years the first floor of that building, and we do have many quality meeting rooms. We have some large meeting spaces from what was the old gymnasium. We now have some sit-down dinners there. Most of you have attended functions there. Other performances in that area. We have the Winfrey Houston Theater has been renovated, a wonderful theater in that building, and multiple meeting rooms. It also has a second story, which we've never renovated. It is not currently in use. It has space for many, many meeting facilities. Meeting rooms, large and small, could be developed on the second floor, but we never have. The drawback, I think some people thought of this as maybe as a convention conference center type of facility. It's got some drawbacks for that. It doesn't have an exhibit hall as most convention centers do, and there are no hotel accommodations nearby. But again, that's its current use as a community center. Now, I think at least what I've been looking at in the last couple of years with staff, is those two blocks are a vital part of downtown. They connect the Main Street Business District to what we call our cultural district, which is the community center. You go south to the next block, half of it is owned by the Children's Museum, the auditorium. They have plans to develop that there. Immediately south of that is our multi-arts center, and immediately south of that is our library. In fact, in the Puma plan, the blocks from the community center down to the library was one leg of a Z. The Main Street business development was another leg of the Z, and the middle of the Z was the two blocks I'm talking about this evening. Now, I've looked really closely at the Puma plan. The Puma plan suggested a lot of uses for that vacant block. It suggested maybe you could put a farmer's market there. Maybe you could put a little outdoor performing arts area there. Maybe you could put some water feature there, green space. There was also some talk of maybe putting some additional parking or maybe even some retail on that block, depending on the growth of the community. One of the, we've had several master plans. We've got a quality of life and infrastructure committee that are both looking at our master plans, and we still use them, and we do still look at them. And for example, the Puma plan I've just talked, it's still a living document. We use it every day to an extent. One of the other studies that we did, we partnered with the Chamber 7 years ago and commissioned a feasibility study, not a master plan per se, but a feasibility market analysis for a convention center. The study was completed and it determined that Stillwater has a strong market that could very easily support a 30 to 40,000 square foot meeting area convention center with a 20 to 25,000 square foot exhibit hall if it had the exhibit hall and an adjoining hotel. That has never come to fruition yet, but I think with the growth, we're finding more and more hotel convention operators are beginning to look at Stillwater and ask about that possibility. The convention center study located 3 or 4 areas in the city that they felt would be prime locations for a convention center like that. One of those was downtown. I got to thinking about that, looking at the Puma plan, looking at this facility, and the building that we own as the community center has so much potential. We've shown what we could do with refurbishing of the first floor. It has the capability to house more than sufficient meeting spaces for a convention center. What it lacks is a nearby hotel, and it lacks an exhibition hall. And then also looking at the other need of the block, the question became, can we accommodate all of those kinds of things on those 2 blocks that the city owns? Can it accommodate green space in a park and a farmer's market? Can it accommodate retail? Can it accommodate a convention center? And I'm not an expert land development designer, so I turned to our planning department, and with a little bit of assistance from the planning staff, the question that I proposed to them is, let's take a look at all of the purposes and demands that we know there's a market for downtown, including the Puma plan's green space, farmers market, and today even space for food trucks to park. We know that there's an increased demand for downtown residential, 2nd, 3rd, 4th story living quarters. We can't meet the demand. Developers are trying to find space for that. There's also some demand for more retail space. So I asked the planning staff to actually look at what buildings would be required to accommodate all those needs, and can you possibly arrange them on this block? And we'll take a little further look and show you kind of what they came up with. This is a concept just to show what you could do on these 2 blocks. This is not a recommended plan that you're going to see. I'm not saying this is what it's going to look like in the future. In fact, this is a pretty grandiose picture that you're going to see. But I'm going to show you the same blocks you just looked at from the air. That's the 2 blocks looking at it from the air. This view is from the north. What you see in the center would be the front of a covered exhibit hall that could be connected to the community center to create a full scope convention center. To the left of that would be hotel accommodations for the convention center. You can get a view around the entire 2 block area. This would be on 8th Street This is just south of the OSU Postal Plaza Art Gallery. You would see on the corner of, that's the corner of Husband and 8th. Those buildings in the picture there would represent first floor dining establishments, retail specialty shops. Second and third floors could be office. They could be upscale apartments, loft apartments downtown. There is a demand for all of those. And you can see there's obviously a large green space, park-like setting to serve both the residential and the retail area. That is along Husband. Come down to 9th Street, across the street from the Stillwater News Press. This area could be accommodation of covered farm market spaces along there. This design was laid out kind of interestingly. Again, it's just a concept, but this space for farmers market has paved area on both sides where the farmers' trucks could come in and back into those spaces. That paved area could also accommodate special events for food trucks, and all the food trucks could line the area. And again, it's not a recommended layout, but it's an interesting that the area would support that. We know that those kind of uses would generate a lot of demand for parking. This area is a parking garage, just conceptually, on the area that's currently the parking lot of the community center. This project does kind of follows with what we were talking about with complete streets. Again, this whole block, 2 blocks, could take on a more pedestrian-friendly kind of an atmosphere. That section of Duncan Street is not a heavily traveled main arterial street. We might even want to consider closing these, adding these 2 blocks together and closing that section of Duncan to accommodate this. Just a quick look, the park-like area. And again, it's not a recommendation, it's a concept. Possibly, and whether the hotel recommended by the convention study analysis, it should be 160 to 200 rooms. That would probably wind up with probably a 6-7 story type of building. We just looked in this concept as the rooftop of whatever building there might be a wonderful place for alumni association gatherings, receptions, convention receptions, to add another dimension to the downtown. In fact, we went a little further. We have a small drone in the city, by the way, where we get some of these pictures. This is what it would look like if you were on the top floor at an event in those. So I wanted to see what it would look like from the 6th floor if you were in downtown, and you can get a bird's eye view of all of the city of Stillwater, clear picture of campus and so forth. Again, it's just a concept, but it's more than a concept, and I'll tell you why, is that I have actually been approached by no less than 2 different groups of commercial developers from Stillwater. I've been approached by no less than 2 major development companies outside of Stillwater who are very interested in this concept. They believe it is feasible for a developer to possibly undertake this concept. They believe it's economically feasible. And I think it's worth exploring. It's interesting, we just talked about the RFP process for cost of study. I think this is another opportunity for a request for proposals. We don't know all of the details of how this property might be developed. I'm recommending, and I prepared and sent all of you a draft of a request for proposals. I would like to publish locally and nationally a request for proposals and accept for the next 60 days proposals from any developers to show us their qualifications, their ability to develop, but most of all, present to us a concept of how they would plan a development to accommodate these uses on these 2 blocks. This is not a commitment to do any project. I think it's a safe avenue to approach. It's a request for proposals. We're not committing anything to the project. I am, in case, and some of you have asked this, several people have asked me. I've had developers ask me about the potential of buying this property from the city. I'd like to go on record right now as saying that I recommend that the city does not consider sale of that property. I think those 2 blocks are an asset that this city needs to retain for the benefit of the community in perpetuity. But I do think that if you find a quality development partner who could turn those 2 blocks into a development that this community would be proud of and would economically benefit this community for years to come, I think the negotiation of a public-private partnership through a land lease could be a potential for this project. Again, if there are experienced developers who believe they could make that investment in our community and we could have a benefit from it, I would like for the trustees to have the opportunity to look at those proposals. So I'm recommending that you authorize me to publish that request for proposals. We published it for 60 days, which takes us to the 1st of January, roughly, first part of January. I don't know whether we'll get 1 proposal or 20 proposals. I think it's going to be more than 1, maybe a little less than 20, but I would not be surprised to get a dozen proposals. I would like to probably at that point ask that the trustees maybe appoint a subcommittee to work with the staff and I to do the first review of all of the proposals. Would like to get it down to the top 2 or 3 proposals and let the trust as a whole have an opportunity to interview, meet with those proposed developers, and determine, is there something there that feels right for Stillwater? If we get no proposal that feels right to the trustees for Stillwater, we've lost nothing. If we find something that you all, at your call, if you all believe it would be a good partner to go forward with, we can explore a development agreement. So I think it's an opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We've got a vacant lot. We've got a lot of demands and needs of a growing city. We've got a vibrant downtown that I think could be enhanced by the right kind of development. But I think we need to spend some time and look to see if there's a qualified developer we'd want to be a partner with the city. So that's, I'd be glad to answer any questions, and I would recommend that you authorize proceeding with the RFP.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Galloway?
I have one little question on the page right above guiding principles, and I apologize for not calling you about it earlier, but proposal must incorporate an appropriate green space, public and private use, which will accommodate farmers market, patio dining, entertainment, and attractive landscaping. I don't know what else might be out there besides farmers market, patio dining, entertainment, and attractive landscaping, but I wonder if it could be include but not limited to.
Yeah, we could. I could certainly include that, and I want this to be, even though there are, as you've seen, there's some minimum requirements. I want the developers to understand that
appropriate green space.
I think we would welcome some thinking outside the box. Not to say that what you just saw is not a little outside the box, but I think we need to give them the opportunity to be as comprehensive as they feel they can. One of the things that we really encourage, I hope you noticed in here, we're going to make copies of all of the city's master plans. The corridor redevelopment district, overlay district, even though it's not downtown, it's adjacent to it. They need to look at the feasibility study on Convention Center. They need to look at the Puma plan. They need to look at our C3 plan. They need to, one of the criteria here is they have to express to you and to me that they have really developed some feeling for what this community is all about and what this community wants. We want them to develop something that fits Stillwater, not a cookie cutter project from Timbuktu. That's not what we're after. This has to be tailored specially for Stillwater, and that will show in the proposal. And well, that's why we'll have a chance to look.
I hope they will talk to perhaps SGA at OSU and let them have some input, since we are a student community, and I know that students would love something like this. So.
They would not be smart developers if they didn't. If you're coming to a college town, I think you need to do those things. We'll also, when we send out the publication, we'll put in the publication, and it says it talks about sending questions to us. We will also will have a list of those kind of suggestions for those consultants who do contact us about groups they can talk to here at the university, the student groups, and others in the city. Some of them may want to even come and have some kind of a town hall meeting to talk to the public. I'm not sure. That's not ruled out. We would allow it. Other questions? Again, it's, I know the concept drawing looked a little bit ambitious, but again, when I look at what we have said and what we've adopted in all of our plans downtown, when I say we, the council has adopted over the last 6-7 years, I think it focuses on all those needs, and if we can find a way to bring those together into something productive, I think it shows what some good planning can result in. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Comments, questions?
Economic
Discussion?
development, quality of life, improvement, just overall in Stillwater,
Excitement.
I'm excited
Yeah.
to see the different proposals.
Okay, so we've got.
Is there a motion in
I
there?
was gonna say,
I motion to authorize the issuance of a request for proposal for a development program.
Second.
all right, awesome. We have a motion and a second. And that is approved 5-0.
Thank you. We will get on that immediately.